All right, everyone. Denver has decriminalized psilocybin. I was actually worried that the measure would be defeated. This is an extremely important step on the road to finally ending the drug war. Because for a lot of time, what localities and states primarily have been doing is saying, well, weed is not bad and therefore legalize marijuana. But they've left out all the other actual important substances. Marijuana can treat glaucoma symptoms. It can certainly be a pain reliever. It can help with stress and stuff, and it's not a harmful substance. How many pounds would you have to smoke? You'd have to smoke like 10 pounds of high-grade marijuana in an hour in order to actually... You'd die of inhalation of the smoke long before the cannabis itself chemically would kill you. It's never going to happen. Psilocybin, though, is also considered... A lot of people don't understand this about psychedelics unless they've been a psychonaut like I have. Like years ago, I used pretty much every psychedelic I could get my hands on. I smoked salvia, I took amanitas, I took morning glory... I took Datura, which, that particular drug isn't fun. Never bother with any of the deliriants. They're literally not worth taking. LSD, I took psilocybin, smoked weed, did spice, that's why I don't do drugs anymore. I overdosed. And it was a legal substance that did that to me. That is that the legal sort of analogs and stuff that were partially, gotten rid of under the Analog Act that then was ruled unconstitutional and too vague, and I think they retooled it some, but it's still legally partially toothless as far as, drug possession. What's happened is that in their fervor to legalize marijuana, most of the intelligent people, the rational, sane people, still have these weird demonic boogeyman sort of thoughts about psychedelics. Shrooms and LSD and stuff. Having used psilocybin and having studied it, because I always tried to study things before using them, I can say this. The fact that psilocybin is a Schedule 1 substance is laughable. Even more laughable than with marijuana. It can be debilitating when you're high. I mean, you wouldn't take psilocybin and drive. You wouldn't take psilocybin really and do anything complicated machinery or something. You'd probably kill yourself. As far as just tripping in general, though, if you use psilocybin, most people don't realize this. Little known fact here among those who have used it. If you use psilocybin for a couple of weeks afterwards, or thereabouts, up to a month in some cases, the idea of using it becomes physically repulsive. So it's actually reverse addictive. Like as far as being addictive to be Schedule 1, goes out the window entirely. It's literally the opposite. In fact, one of the reasons that it's been kept illegal is because it can help with treating the symptoms of drug withdrawal, and therefore it can help people get clean from like heroin and crack and shit like that. It helps it's like iboga. What happens is the person almost hypnotizes themselves with regards to that the substance abuse that they're undergoing. It can mentally help them change. It can help them to make that mental breakthrough that gets them over that first hurdle to recovery. It has a very high success rate compared with traditional treatment, actually, which is why iboga is highly illegal in the United States, because they want people to be addicted because it's a big industry. Oh yeah, the prison industry and pharmaceuticals making, cheap knockoffs of what nature already makes is pretty profitable. So don't stand in the way of these billionaires, otherwise you're a hippie, I guess. I've never been in favor of the drug war. I think it should be ended completely. No, I don't care if someone's fried out on grass all the time. It's not my problem. If they run their car off the road or something, DUI, all other things, aggravating factors, that should all apply. But if they're just using drugs in their backyard and staring at an anthill or something, I don't care. And I've used most of these substances, and I would say, do I sound incoherent? Do I sound unintelligent, like I burned out my brain cells on drugs? I would hope not, considering the number of people who take me seriously for political commentary, at least. Yeah, caffeine has a more appreciable ability to kill you than shrooms. I can't remember exactly what the dosage would be of like the high grade, like azaresins, like I used. And it wasn't even a good trip, but it should still be legal. I saw Charles Manson's head floating across my leg. The ceiling turned to jelly. I could pick the floor up, which was the weirdest part. At one point, it felt like all around me, there was this sort of like church, like a cathedral, like an abbey or something. It was made of like crystal and dew and spider's webs, and it was all shimmery and shiny and spinning slowly around me. Oh, it was great. But then the trip got too much psychologically, and I felt a sort of heaviness, and I went to bed. And, that wasn't fun, because I woke up at one point thinking I'd injured myself, because it looked like my hand was covered in blood. I'm like, oh, shit, I got too high, I hurt myself. I turned the light on, and it's just sweat, and I'm like, oh, shit, fucking thank God. And then it started to wear off. I spent a couple hours of it sleeping, and can't remember the dreams I had, but I can remember they were weird. Anyway, Decriminalizing this is a good first step, and legalizing it would be a bad idea. In some cases, I think marijuana and all these substances should just not be on the books. There should simply be no laws that apply to them. Let people grow it. Marijuana is basically a weed anyway. Why do you think they fucking call it weed? It's a big scraggly ass plant that, unless properly cultivated, but has a couple little buds on it, and I guess you pinch them off and smoke them and they're okay. I don't use any of these substances and haven't for God, I think 7 years now or something, or 6. I think the last time I smoked marijuana, I had a bad trip on it, had a panic attack because it felt too much like my overdose on spice, and so I never touched it again. And as far as psilocybin, though, goes, it doesn't have an appreciably high lethal dose. Unless you're, like, extracting the psilocin, I suppose you could kill yourself with that. So it's not particularly deadly. It's literally not addictive in any meaningful way. I don't even know that it's really habituating. In fact, it'd be reverse habituating, at least short term. As far as medical benefit, yeah, it has medical benefits. The studies that have been performed on psilocybin in other countries largely have shown a marked decrease in depression, sometimes a permanent alleviation of depression, a marked ability for it to be used in addiction treatment to, actually addictive substances. And I suppose it could help with pain relief if you're succumbing to that sort of level of hallucinations. I suppose you wouldn't be feeling too much pain, although I question that. And like with marijuana, people be like, oh, it cured my cancer and stuff. It's like, no, it doesn't cure AIDS, it doesn't cure cancer, it's not killing viruses, but it can help with the mental side of medicine. Look, 90% of all the symptoms and problems that people have are purely in their minds. They might be sparked by something physical, but they're caused by stress, they're caused by depression, stuff like that. That causes a lot of secondary illness that really the symptoms just mimic some cold or something. Oh, I just feel under the weather or something. Yeah, that's 90% of people's complaints. Smoke marijuana, I suppose. It seems to work for marijuana smokers mostly. I know other people, by the way, who can't smoke it. Like, if I had cancer, I guess I'd have to use the traditional opiates. Can't use marijuana for treating that anymore. But, I mean, I would just probably drink myself to death at that point. I got cancer. Okay, let me see. It's basically my philosophy. I have to die anyway someday. So, Denver now is decriminalized, and now it's still illegal. It's just that they're not freeing up any police resources to actually go after people for simple possession of psilocybin. They put it on the lowest priority list, and I guarantee that when people see it's not a societal problem, they'll move to decriminalize other similar substances. So thank you, Denver. You've taken the I wish it were Vermont. Vermont was on the forefront of marijuana and gay rights and all of these other, ending slavery before it was a U.S. state. But we've been leading from behind lately, so I call on Vermonters to do something similar. Let's push it to the state house here in this state. Let's get something going in petition. If Phil Scott's a cuck for the Democrats, so he's not going to stand in the way. What's he going to do about it? He already bent over backwards to our weed lobby that actually exists. Thankfully, they managed to create a bill that makes sense. You can actually grow it in the state without a license as long as it's only a few plants and nobody cares. Denver already has legal weed. And they got weed shops all over the place. As far as I know, it hasn't caused any problems. It just brings in a shit ton of tax revenue. Sounds fair to me. At least on the state and local level, that sort of tax is more acceptable. If it were a federal level, it'd be a little bit different. It'd be like, what are you trying to say? Yeah, after 100 years of throwing people in prison and killing them for marijuana, Uncle Sam embraces his inner green. His inner hippie. We used to smash him on the head. Now we just want to smash that bong, man. It'd be really funny. Yeah, but I mean, we should move to legalize all psychedelics. It's important. The hard drugs, you can keep them, well, they should be decriminalized too for simple possession. Get people into involuntary rehab for addiction to substances that are actually addictive. Why don't we let actual science determine our drug policy? Actual reality instead of the whims of someone back in the reefer madness era. Oh my God, marijuana is a gateway drug. Marijuana causes you to crash your car and kill your kids. No, it doesn't. And neither will psilocybin. Sometimes people have a bad trip. They'll think that they're having all sorts of problems. Oh my God, I'm going to die. No, and 99.9% chance they're perfectly fucking fine. They snap out of it. They laugh about the fact that they had a bad trip. Then they make movies about it. Do you remember that scene from, Pineapple Express, where they're at Cirque du Soleil on Shrooms, and they're, like, freaking out? That was pretty funny. That was one of the better stoner comedy movies that I've ever seen. Of course, Cheech and Chong, obviously the best. Yeah, ask them about psilocybin. Ask them about marijuana. They can tell you the truth. That's about all. Peace out.